O hidden love, embracing all in oneness. May each who feels himself as one with thee know he's also one with every other. So, yes, Vibhaji, can we continue?
Namaste, good evening to everybody. Yeah, just give me a moment. I'll put it live on YouTube. Okay. So namaste, good evening to everybody. We were studying this letter number 93A and B, in which questions have been posed by Sinet and Mahatma KH is answering them. Now we were on question number 6, which we have not completed. The question was about, Sinet had asked Mahatma Ji that what is the good of the whole cyclic process if at the end only the pure and impersonal spirit has to emerge, because it was even pure and impersonal before its descent into matter. So what is the whole good of this cyclic process? And to explain that, Mahatma Ji mentioned that at the end it is not only the pure and impersonal spirit which emerges, but it is the collective personal remembrances which are absorbed from every new fifth principle, the Mansic principle. And this happens in the long series of being. So, in this long series of being, the collective personal remembrances, they are what emerge together with the spirit. Okay. And the purpose of this whole process of life on earth, to understand that, we have to study it in its entire series of manifestations, not just on earth. Okay, on earth it is just one state of being, but they will unfold higher and higher states of being. So that is what we need to understand. On this earth we see life in concrete matter, like in the mineral matter, vegetable form, and the animal form. We also need to understand life in its most spiritual form, that is, in the imponderable matter, life beyond Earth's existence. So, this life, which is apart from organism, Mahatma Ji says it is only a mode of motion. Okay, it is the universal, omnipotent force which he calls as one life. And in that abstract sense, what life is, that is what we need to comprehend. That is what even science needs to comprehend. Life is not just bringing all the chemical things together and creating a cell in the body of an animal. That is not what life is. It is much more than that. And to understand that, we have to comprehend it in its abstract sense. Okay. Now we'll go further in the same answer. He has not completed the answer yet. So further, Mahatma Ji is making the most revealing statement to Senate. He says that life as life, it is not only transformable into other aspects or phases, like, that all-pervading force. So different types of forces. It is not only that, but it can also actually be infused into an artificial man. Infusing life into an artificial man. Can you imagine what it would be like? Today, in the field of computers, we know scientists, they are already speaking of whether artificial intelligence can be made to have consciousness. Right? Now, way back in the 19th century, there was this novelist, Mary Shelley. And in that novel, there she wrote the story that there is a scientist who experimentally creates a living creature, and that creature has his own mind and starts working. He becomes the monster Frankenstein. Okay, that is the story of Frankenstein. So Mahatma Ji tells Sinet that Frankenstein is not merely a myth, it is a reality. Man can be created artificially. In fact, he says that when the sixth root race will come upon this planet, then the last sub-race of that sixth root race, the physicians and the physicists of that last sub-race, they will have this knowledge and they will have the ability to infuse life into dead persons by inoculation. Right now, we use this inoculation, right, to vaccinate people like for smallpox and for any other contagious diseases, right? So in the same way, like we inoculate or we use vaccinations for people to become immune to diseases, same way, those the adepts of the seventh subrace of the sixth root race, they will be able to infuse life into dead people by inoculation. So there will be no death. The person can become alive again. And finally, Mahatma Ji says that spirit, life, and matter. Okay, three things: spirit, life, and matter. They are the effects of combinations which are produced by eternal motion in space. So, motion is eternal, and that eternal motion, due to the effects of the combinations, the spirit, life, and matter, they come into manifestation. These principles, they do not exist independently of each other. So that concludes the answer to our sixth question. And then we come to a set of questions which Sinet has asked, which are based on physical science. First of all, he is asking Mahatma Ji that is it permitted ever to answer any question relating to matters of physical science? Because he was of the idea that perhaps the adepts speak only about some superhuman and supernatural things. So, will they answer anything related to our day to day natural phenomena, day to day physical science? So, Mahatma Ji says, yes, of course, he is permitted. And he also adds that whatever they explain, that means whatever the adepts explain, every new law of physical science that they reveal, it is rejected by these professors of modern science because science knows nothing about those matters, although they are as natural as any other phenomena. So we come to the next question, the eighth question, which Sinet has asked. And these set of questions, the next, I think up to uh, 12 or 14, these questions are based on physical science. They have to do with the sun and the magnetic phenomena of the earth, etc. Okay. So first question here that Sinet is asking is about the cause of rainfall. Does rainfall happen due to magnetic conditions, or is it solely due to the effects of solar energy, like expansion of air, changes in pressure, temperature, humidity? If at all magnetic conditions are evolved, then how do they operate and how they can be tested? So this is Sinet's question to Mahatma Ji. And Mahatma Ji replies that yes, magnetic conditions, they affect the precipitation of rain. In fact, it can be made to rain in any desired small area. Okay, knowingly, willingly, you can make it rain in a desired small area. It is not magic or superhuman power. It is done by utilization of these laws of occult science. But at the same time, Mahatma KH is not permitted to divulge this knowledge. And he says that he is trying to obtain permission, but he cannot divulge that knowledge. Can you imagine that at this point of time on our earth, the way the nature or the character of man is this kind of knowledge really safe to give him? The selfishness or the self-centeredness of man, he can really wreak havoc if he has this kind of knowledge. So I think it is but natural that Mahatma Ji did not have the permission to divulge this knowledge. And then he explains further about this magnetism. He says that no natural phenomena is entirely unconnected with either magnetism or electricity. There was this scientist J.C. Maxwell, and in 1861 he proposed that electricity and magnetism, they were two aspects of the same force. They were not different. In fact, he proposed this model of electromagnetic induction. What that, in short, what that electromagnetic induction, what it means is that a moving magnetic field, it will give rise to an electric current, and vice versa. That means if there is a moving electric field, then it will induce magnetism. So one induces the other. Only there has to be motion of that field. Okay. So this was proposed by Maxwell in 1861. And Mahatma Ji also says that it is true in any natural phenomena which involves, say, for example, motion, heat, friction, or light. So any such natural phenomena, it will always be accompanied by magnetism and electricity. Magnetism and electricity, they will either be the cause, or they will be the effect, or they will be both. Okay? But every natural phenomena is associated with magnetism and electricity. In fact, our entire earth, it is an electrified conductor, a body which allows electric current to pass through it. We know current passes through earth. In our electrical appliances also we have the earthing wire, which in case of leakage, it allows the current to pass into the earth. So this earth, because it is an electrified conductor, it gives rise to magnetism of the earth and atmospheric electricity. The electric potential of our earth, that is always changing. And why it is changing? Due to motion. Motion is fundamental. Okay. In the case of earth, it is the axial motion, that is earth rotates on its axis, and the orbital motion, that the earth goes around the sun. So these two motions, it is causing this electric potential of the earth to keep changing. And we can observe phenomena like alternating heating and cooling periods, formation of clouds, formation of rain, storm, winds, etc. But behind all these, the real reason for all these changes is the Akashic magnetism. Now, this is the new or the occult knowledge which Mahatma Ji is giving here, that behind all these changes, whatever we mentioned, heating and cooling, formation of cloud, rain, storm, behind all this, the real reason is Akashic magnetism. He doesn't elaborate it, but what we know of Akash, see, first of all, this Akashic magnetism, it continuously generates electric currents to restore the disturbed equilibrium of the earth. Okay. So Akashic magnetism, it is continuously generating electric currents. And these electric currents, which are due to Akashic magnetism, their purpose is to restore the disturbed equilibrium of the earth. Now, what do we know about Akash? From the theosophic literature, we know that Akash is the primordial substance. It pervades all of space. If you look at the cosmic planes counting from below, from the lowest plane onwards, then it is the fifth cosmic plane counting from below. Okay, so fifth cosmic plane is the plane of Akash, which is the primordial substance that pervades all of space. And Mahatma Ji explains that this Akashic magnetism, so the matter of that fifth plane, which is called Akashic matter, it is associated with this magnetism, the force, which is generating electric currents to restore the disturbed equilibrium of the earth. Okay, this is something very important and very occult. Mahatma Ji explains that in fact, even human beings have the ability to precipitate or stop rain. Okay. Why? Because rain has got to do with magnetism. And the human body is an electromagnetic powerhouse. The human frame, Mahatma Ji says, is the most powerful of electric batteries. By certain process, if within the human body, by certain process of its electrification and magnetization, rain can be stopped or produced artificially. In fact, even now, like when naturally the rain is occurring, it is due to the magnetic nature of trees and plants. That is what attracts the rain clouds. And the adepts, they have gained such knowledge. They know about it, which is actually due to their study. It is the fruit of millenniums of their study, observation, experience, and experiment. So whatever the adepts may say that it is due to magnetism, and even a human being can produce rain due to the magnetism of his own body, but science will not agree. Okay, the question will arise that how can one man generate this huge amount of heat and energy which is required to produce rain? Even if suppose we take a very small area of 1 square mile, but we can imagine that what is the amount of heat that is required to vaporize the water from oceans and rivers, then condense it into clouds and then make it rain, right? So that is a huge amount of energy. So science will question, how can one man generate such energy, huge energy. And so how can one man bring about rain? So what now, another piece of occult knowledge, what Mahatmaji reveals. He says it is true that one man alone can do it. If if he has the knowledge of certain physico-spiritual liver within him. Physico-spiritual liver. That means physical and spiritual. Physico-spiritual liver within him. Mahatmaji doesn't elaborate further. What is this physico-spiritual liver? But we know from modern science, from physics, what is a liver? Liver is a simple machine using which, if we apply a small effort, then the work corresponding to a large effort can be accomplished. So a liver is amplifying. You put in a small effort, but due to that liver, the work corresponding to a large effort can be accomplished. Okay, so here liver is mentioned as a metaphor, the physico-spiritual liver or the physical spiritual liver, which is the body of man. Okay, what will happen by the use of a small amount of spiritual force, which the clue Mahatmaji has given, Akashic magnetism. So by So by the use of a small amount of spiritual force, a huge physical effect can be produced. It is possible. And that is how this rain can be brought about even by one single man. So in fact, the human body, it is like a factory which runs by electricity. We know that how this body works. There is communication between the brain and outside world through nerve impulses. And these nerve impulses, they are nothing, they are electrical signals in the nerve cells. And wherever there is a gap between the nerve cells, between two neurons, there is always a gap. So then this electrical impulse is converted into chemical impulse. We have these sodium ions and chemical ions, and they transmit the signal to the next neural cell and then again into an electrical impulse. Even our simple muscular motion, moving our fingers or moving our hands, legs, it is always accompanied with electric and magnetic phenomena. Right? We have seen wherever there is electricity, there will be magnetism. One induces the other. Okay. And then Mahatmaji tells us that there is a very strong connection between magnetism of earth, the weather, and man. Because earth is also a electric conductor and associated with magnetism, and so is man. And this magnetism, it influences the atmospheric conditions. So weather, earth, weather, and man, very strong connection. In fact, Mahatmaji calls man as a living barometer. Barometer is a instrument which measures the atmospheric pressure. Okay, so if man knows how to read his own self, his own body as a barometer, then he can function like nature's laboratory. Okay, atmospheric conditions can be correctly ascertained by that instrument. Now, it is an established fact that Earth's magnetism, it produces winds, storms, and rain. Now, what science knows about it, like that cycle of vaporization, condensation, and rain, all those are only secondary symptoms. And all those symptoms, they are, in fact, always induced by the primary cause, which is magnetism. So, magnetism is the cause for rain. And then Mahatmaji goes on to explain about Earth's magnetism and its effects. What he says that high above our Earth's surface, the air and space, it is filled with magnetic or meteoric dust. And that meteoric dust, it does not even belong to our solar system. Meteors are like the rocks and the bodies in space, which are not quite planets, but they are huge bodies. They are meteors. Sometimes they enter into the Earth's atmosphere also. Okay, and so that meteoric dust is also magnetic. And this meteoric dust, it is magnetically attracted to the Earth. It directly influences the weather, temperature, and also the height of the atmosphere. How high above the surface of the Earth, till what height the atmosphere exists. So that height is also influenced by the meteoric dust. Excuse me. Now, every atmospheric change and disturbance, it is due to the combined magnetism of the two great masses. One is the Earth. Earth is magnetic. and the meteoric dust. Meteoric dust is also magnetic. So our atmosphere, it is compressed between these two magnetic masses, the earth and the meteoric dust. And every atmospheric change or disturbance happens due to the magnetism of these two. Now, as our earth is moving through space, it is gathering more and more meteoric dust. This meteoric dust matter, it is more in the northern hemisphere as compared to the southern hemisphere. And this is also the reason why there are more number of continents, and also there is an abundance of snow and moisture in northern hemisphere as compared to the southern hemisphere. And millions of meteors and the fine particles of their dust, they reach us every day and every year. The snow, especially in northern region, it is full of this meteoric iron. Iron is magnetic, right? So the magnetic particles in this meteoric dust, they all deposit, and their deposits are also found at the bottom of seas and oceans. It's all coming from outer space. In fact, the temple knives, Mahatmaji says that their temple knives, they are made of this heavenly iron because it comes from outer space. And that iron that has not undergone any change, the magnetism of the earth keeps those particles together in cohesion. Then not only these iron particles, but also gaseous matter. It is continuously being added to our atmosphere due to this never ceasing fall of meteoric matter, okay, which is very, very strongly magnetic. And in our modern science, in our scientific studies, a lot has been attributed to sun and the solar energy. But the sun has got nothing to do with rain and very little to do with heat. This is being told by Mahatma KH. The sun has nothing to do with rain and very little with heat. In fact, the heat that the earth receives by radiation from the sun, it is only about 1/3 or perhaps even less than the amount of heat which is received directly from the meteors. So meteors have such a big influence on earth. This heat and dust due to meteoric presence, it is responsible for the decrease and increase of the height of the atmosphere. And this expansion of atmosphere, it causes the cold glacial periods. Earth undergoes so many different epochs. So the glacial periods, they are due to this changes in atmosphere, the height in the atmosphere which changes, and also the warm carboniferous ages which happen upon Earth. They are also due to this atmospheric changes. And these atmospheric changes, they come due to the meteoric presence. Okay, so that is the amount of influence which meteoric presence has on Earth, and of course on the rainfall. Then we go to the next question. Sorry. Is the sun's corona an atmosphere of any known gases? And why does it assume the rayed shape always observed in eclipse? Many of you, or any of you who has observed the solar eclipse, would have seen the corona, especially at the time of total solar eclipse. Only the ring around that black disk can be seen. That is called as the corona. So Mahatmaji answers that this sun's corona, it is neither a chromosphere nor is it an atmosphere. It is simply the magnetic and the ever-present aura of the sun. What is the corona? It is the magnetic and ever-present aura of the sun. During eclipse, astronomers can see it. And Mahatmaji says that also chelas can see it when they are in certain induced state of consciousness. That means in certain elevated cases or higher states of consciousness, even the chelas are able to see the corona of the sun. Normally, we cannot even look at the sun with our bare eyes. Now, the red flames that are seen in the corona, they are also seen in any strongly magnetic body. Okay. For example, crystals. In the 19th century, there was this Austrian chemist and metallurgist whose name is Reichenbach, and he described this phenomena in crystals. And if I recall correctly, crystals are supposed to be the highest group in the mineral kingdom. Just like in human kingdom, we have 7 races, and the seventh race is supposed to be most evolved or the highest. Similarly, in other kingdoms also there are 7 groups. Mineral kingdom also has its 7 groups. So in that, crystals are supposed to be the highest group. And this person, Reichenbach, was able to demonstrate or describe this phenomena of magnetic envelopment of the crystals, corona-like phenomena around crystals. And Mahatmaji says that similar phenomena is exhibited. The head of a man, it will exhibit a similar corona as in the sun. When he will exhibit? When he is in a highly elevated spiritual state, like samadhi, a strong ecstatic condition, and especially in darkness. So that coronal light, that luminosity around his head will be visible. Now, what happens in this elevated spiritual state, like samadhi? All electrical activity of the human body, it is centered around the brain, right? So the head region strongly associated with electrical activity. And what goes along with electricity? Magnetism. Okay, so that magnetism is what is seen around as that illuminating circle around the head. Many times you would have observed in pictures of gods and saints, these aureoles are drawn around their head. It is like a yellow halo. So Mahatmaji says that these phenomena, they are a reality, and they actually would take place in the chambers of initiations. As man progresses on the path of spirituality and he takes higher and higher initiations. So these phenomena, that aureole or the yellow halo around the sun, they would actually become visible around his head. Now, this magnetic matter, Mahatmaji is telling us, it is constantly in a state of motion. It is fluctuating constantly. Okay. The inner corona, that is the red flames which are closer to the head or to the aura emitting body, like the sun. So in the coronal ring or the sphere, the red flames which are closer to the body or to the head, they are highly irregular. They are very strong and they are very bright. Okay? These fluctuations, they cause all the different variety of sunspots that are observed on the surface of the sun. Science has been able to discover and describe the sunspots occurring on the sun. So they are due to the fluctuation of this magnetic matter and energy. And in periods of magnetic inertia, when the magnetic field is not very strong, when magnetic activity is low, then these spots, they disappear and they remain invisible. But when magnetic activity is very high, then the sunspots, they appear. Okay, that is due to the inner corona. Now, the farther out these electromagnetic emanations shoot out from that body, they will slowly lose their intensity, they will subside, and they will fade out. So that forms the rays of the outer corona. Okay, inner corona, which is closer to the body or to the head, and then the outer corona, which is shooting out. So this brightness, the effulgence of the corona, it is due to the magnetic nature of matter and electric energy. This Mahatmaji is very clear on this. The brightness, the effulgence of the corona, it is due to the magnetic nature of matter and the electrical energy. It is not due to intensely hot particles as asserted by astronomers. For example, again, consider the example of human being. When in the state of samadhi, his head, is it hot? No. The halo of light around his head, is it due to heat or intensely hot particles? No. It is due to the electric activity which is taking place in his brain, which is giving rise to the magnetic field. Right? So, as Mahatmaji has affirmed here, it is very clear that the corona is due to magnetic nature of matter and electrical energy, not due to intensely hot particles. Okay. Then another fact that Mahatmaji reveals is that the sun we see, it is not the central planet of our solar universe, but it is only a reflection or wheel. So this is well known in the theosophic literature. Okay. And moreover, science faces tremendous obstacles in studying even this reflection, which we call the sun, because of the tremors or fluctuations of our atmosphere. Now, this is another new information. The tremors or fluctuations of our atmosphere, they are due to an akashic condition. Okay? Akashic matter, it pervades all of space. So it is causing this tremor or fluctuation of atmospheres. And this fact, it was known to the adepts. Also, it was known to the Egyptians and the Chaldean astronomers. They were well acquainted with all Akashic conditions. So they did not face any issue when they were studying the sun. Okay, it is only modern science because it is not, it does not know about the Akashic conditions. And Mahatma Ji is saying that merely by giving this knowledge to the modern scientists, it's not going to help them. It is not that they will be able to agree or they will be able to study about the sun very nicely. Why? Because one has to himself become an occultist by long years of practice of Yoga Vidya. See, one has to himself become an occultist by long years of practice of Yoga Vidya. Merely knowledge yields no result. Practical occultism alone leads to acquirement of powers. Okay, so we have a lot of knowledge here in this theosophic literature. We are equipping ourselves with this knowledge, studying it. It is as good as that studying. It is opening up our mind. It is stimulating the higher mind. Okay, that is one part. But to progress, there has to be long years of practice of Yoga Vidya. That is practical occultism. But that should be undertaken only under the direct guidance of a guru. Otherwise, it can lead to risks and dangers. So these were the very reasons, there were many reasons and many mistakes that even these best scientific authorities, they could not know the real nature of the sun. And Mahatma Ji, he illustrates three mistakes. The first one, it is the fact that sun is full of iron vapors. Now he's using the same terms that Sinnett has used, iron vapors. Actually, there is nothing like that in esoteric doctrine, the term, okay? It is magnetic matter. Now, this is shown by spectral analysis. Spectral analysis is a method in physics by which, by analyzing this electromagnetic spectrum, the presence of certain elements can be known, okay? Because they absorb some frequencies from that spectrum or they emit certain frequencies. So you can actually see the spectral lines, right? Either absorbed or emitted. So absorption spectrum and emission spectrum. So Mahatma Ji says that it is a fact that the sun is full of iron vapors as shown by spectral analysis. This fact was rejected by scientists, saying that the particles in the corona, they would fall upon the body of the sun. The scientists thought that due to the gravity, those particles of iron, they will fall back on the body of the sun. But Mahatma Ji says that the falling of so-called particles, actually there are no particles, there is only magnetic emanation. But because scientists are using that term, so the falling back of so-called particles, which scientists are attributing to gravity, it does not happen. First of all, due to the coexistence of other forces. There are many other forces which will counter this effect. And scientists do not know anything about those other forces. Okay. And secondly, there is no such force as gravitational force. There is only attraction and repulsion. So due to lack of knowledge of this, the real nature, there is no gravity force as such. There is only attraction, repulsion. And also there exist other forces which balance out this attraction of the particles to fall back into the sun. Science does not know about it. And this is one of the mistakes or the fallacy which they have in their studies. The second mistake which they commit, scientists, they observe comets passing through this iron vapor without any visible effects on them. So how come this is possible? If anything goes close to the sun, it should immediately evaporate or get annihilated. But it has been observed that comets are passing through it. So now this, what is this? To explain this, Mahatma Ji clarifies that the passing of comets through the vapor, it is only an optical illusion. Imagine telling that to the scientist. It is only your optical illusion because the visible sun is only a reflection of the real sun. If the comet entered the area of attraction of the real sun, then it would immediately be annihilated by that force. That force is so tremendous that there is nothing comparable to it on Earth. Okay. So that is the second mistake which Mahatmaji pointed out. And the third mistake he points out that Professor Young's spectroscope showed the coronal line was not identical with the iron one. So the element iron which is present in the sun, it can be analyzed by spectroscopy. But Professor Young's method, spectroscope, it did not show that the coronal line is same as the line of iron. So Mahatmaji answers that the coronal line may not seem identical. This is an imperfection of the spectroscope. But it is the truth that the corona contains iron and other vapors. He is confirming this, the presence of iron and other vapors in the corona of the sun. And such matter that is there in the sun, it does not exist anywhere in our planetary system except in the sun. Then, so these are the three mistakes which Mahatmaji pointed out and he corrected it. And then he explains more about the sun. He says that what you call the sun, it is simply the reflection of the huge storehouse of our system. Okay, the visible sun, which we are calling the sun, it is simply the reflection of the huge storehouse of our system. And in this storehouse, all the forces of the sun are generated and preserved. The real sun, it is the heart and brain of our tiny universe. In addition to the sunspots which come on the surface of the sun, the surface is also made up of faculae. Now, what are these faculae? Faculae are the millions of small, intensely brilliant bodies. Some can be quite large as Europe also. So these millions of small, intensely brilliant bodies, they are electric and magnetic matter in its sixth and seventh state. This is a very occult piece of information that in addition to the sunspots, the other bright spots of which the sun is made up, what are they? They are the electric and magnetic matter in its sixth and seventh state. So everything is septenary. Matter is also septenary. What is the matter in its sixth and seventh state? How do we explain it? Go back by analogy to the septenary constitution of man. The sixth and seventh principle, Atma Buddhi. Atma Buddhi is matter in its sixth and seventh state. Now, the sun is not just a physical body. It is a being, a highly spiritual being, a solar logos. It is the logos. So, the matter in that, it is matter in sixth and seventh state, Atma Buddhi. Okay, as correspondence, as analogy. Electric and magnetic matter in its sixth and seventh state. That is the millions of small, intensely bright bodies on the surface of the earth. And Mahatmaji says that scientists, they may keep on speculating. What is the structure observed in the sun, its penumbra, its central part, the flames or the aura of the sun, but they will not succeed in getting the right answers until they first correct some of their cardinal errors. Some of them which already he pointed out, and then some more greatest scientific misconceptions which are due to, he has listed certain misconceptions, they are due to limited notion or limited knowledge on the law of gravitation. Even today, we don't fully understand what is gravity due to. The law of gravity has not been able to be integrated into the other forces, fundamental forces. Okay, so our limited notion on law of gravitation. Then second, the denial that matter may be imponderable. Science denies it, that matter can be imponderable. What do we mean by imponderable matter? It means matter that is not objectively perceptible. So something which is not objectively perceptible to science, science denies that. But we know that matter can exist in astral form, in mental form, in Buddhic matter, and even higher than Buddhic. That means even higher than the sixth state of matter. That is also the seventh state of matter. So matter does exist in imponderable forms, but science denies it. So that is another misconception due to which they don't get their answers or analysis correctly. The third misconception is science has invented this term force and it has accepted that force exists independently of matter. This is another great fallacy of science. Inventing a term force and accepting that force is independent of matter, whereas that is not the case. Force and matter are not independent. Further, there is some explanation about it. The fourth misconception is ignorance of the universal proteus. Universal proteus is the one element from which everything else is derived or differentiated. Okay, so ignorance of that universal proteus, its functions and importance in the economy of nature, of which what we see magnetism and electricity, they are only two aspects. Okay, so everything, the source of everything is that one element, and science is totally ignorant about that universal proteus. In fact, even during the times of the Roman Empire, there existed people, there existed men, adepts, who knew more about electricity and magnetism than the scientists of now they do. Okay? They had more knowledge at that time. And all the fancy names given by scientists to whatever they observe in the sun. The sun is simply magnetic matter in its usual state of activity. This is what Mahatma Ji affirms. This, he says, how can you even imagine that purely mineral matter, physical matter like hydrogen, how can hydrogen it feed the fire of the sun, right? What, how can the sun be as it is just due to physical matter like hydrogen? We just now we explained that the faculae or the bright spots of the sun, they are matter in its sixth and seventh state. So how can merely matter in physical state make the sun what it is? It cannot. The composition of the invisible sun neither has any name nor it is comparable to anything which is known by science. Even its reflection does not contain anything like gases, vapor, or fire. And Mahatma Ji uses these same terms like iron vapor and magnetic matter only to make Sinet understand, because those are the terms available in his scientific vocabulary. And then to conclude this discussion about the corona of the sun, Mahatma Ji says that the coronal changes, they have no effect upon the Earth's climate. Although the sunspots, they do have an effect. But then there was this scientist, Norman Lockyer, and he had discovered helium and he studied the sun using electromagnetic spectroscopy. It is said that the hydrogen atoms, they are continuously fusing. There is nuclear fusion and helium is being produced. Okay, so this scientist Norman Lockyer, he had co-discovered helium and studied electromagnetic spectroscopy to study the sun. Mahatma Ji says that most of his deductions, they are incorrect. They are not correct. Okay, the sun is neither a solid nor a liquid nor a gaseous globe. It is a gigantic ball of electromagnetic forces. Remember again that force is not independent of matter. It is matter in its sixth and seventh state. That is what gives the brightness to the sun. That is what is the electromagnetic force. So force and matter are not independent. And therefore, sun is not solid, liquid, or gaseous. No hydrogen is fusing to make helium. Okay. It is the storehouse of universal life and motion. And from the sun, this universal life and motion, it is pulsating in all directions. It is feeding the smallest atom as well as the greatest genius. It feeds them with the same material up to the end of the entire solar cycle or the Mahayug. Okay, so this is what information about the occult information about the sun Mahatma Ji has given, and it will be well for us to study this again and again. I don't know how it can be reconciled with the present day physics, but such are the truths which we need to know. So that completes question number 9, and maybe I'll take just a few more minutes to start the question number 10. In that, Sinet now asks, is the photometric value of light emitted by stars a safe guide to their magnitude? Photometry, it is a method to determine the intensity of light. So, Sinet is asking, by using that photometric value, that is the intensity which determines intensity of light, can we safely, is it a safe guide to tell us the magnitude of the star? And is it true that astronomy assumes for d mu in the way of a theory that per square mile the sun's surface emits as much light as it can be emitted from any body? That means, is the sun's surface emitting the maximum possible light that can be emitted? Okay. For d mu is for want of a better alternative. We don't have any other alternative. So this is what we are assuming. Is it correct? Okay. So two parts in this question. Now, Mahatma Ji says that intensity of light, that is the photometric value of light, it is emitted by stars. It does not correctly indicate their magnitude. Now, why? Why the intensity of light is not an indicator of the magnitude of the star? It is due to the fact that the stars are very distant from the Earth. Okay. See, what is the distance between Sun and Earth? Whatever thousands of miles it is. The stars are 5 lakh to 10 lakh times more than that distance. 5 lakh to 10 lakh times more than the distance between the Earth and the Sun. That is how distant they are. And moreover, the stars, this strongly magnetic meteoric matter and the tremors of the Earth's atmosphere, they pose an obstacle in knowing the real intensity of the starlight which is reaching on Earth. Okay. Two things are the obstacles. What? We have seen in the previous answer also that meteoric matter, it is strongly magnetic and it is high above the surface of the Earth, high above the atmosphere. So that meteoric matter, and the second factor, it is the tremors of the Earth's atmosphere, the fluctuations in the Earth's atmosphere, which in the earlier answer, Mahatma Ji said it is due to Akashic magnetism. So these two obstacles, they are not allowing us to know the real intensity of the starlight because the starlight has to pass through it. So there is no trustworthy method of calculating either the magnitude of the star or the distance to the star. Moreover, science is not even sure which stars are shining by their own light and which are shining by reflected light. That means which are real stars and which are planets. Except for one star, that is Cassiopeia, that is in the Cassiopeia constellation. So except for that one star, we are not even sure which is a star, which is a planet. And Mahatma Ji tells Sinet that he himself had checked in 1878 and he found that the working of the photometer was deceptive. Until that time, the photometers had not discovered any planet outside our solar system. Whereas the adepts and the Mahatmas, they already know a number of planets, even outside our solar system, just by their spiritual eye alone. They don't need any instrumental help. In fact, every matured sun star, okay, the stars also have a life period, right? They are also evolving. So when they reach maturity, a completely matured sun star, it has several companion planets. Every such matured sun star will have companion planets. That is the norm. Even the scientific method for polarization of light is also not trustworthy. So earlier Mahatma spoke about photometry. Photometry is deceptive. And the another method, polarization of light, that is also not trustworthy. Now, what is polarization? In fact, I think shall we stop, leave it over here? There is less time for our translation otherwise. This is a very long answer. So we will cover this polarization of light in our next session. I will bring this session to a halt now. And thank you so much for listening patiently. I request Meenakshi ji to give us the translation in Hindi.
नमस्ते, थैंक यू सिस्टर। आज हम लेटर नंबर 93 बी का अगला भाग ले रहे हैं। मास्टर कहते हैं कि जीवन को न केवल सर्वव्यापी शक्ति के अन्य पहलुओं या अवस्थाओं में रूपांतरित किया जा सकता है, बल्कि इसे वास्तव में एक कृत्रिम मनुष्य में भी संचारित किया जा सकता है। फ्रैंकस्टीन केवल अभी तभी एक काल्पनिक व्यक्ति है जब तक वह एक रहस्यपूर्ण कहानी का नायक है। प्रकृति में यह संभावना है और सिक्स रेस के अंतिम सब रेस के भौतिक शास्त्रज्ञ और चिकित्सक जीवन प्राण का टीका लगाकर लाशों को पुनर्जीवित करेंगे, जैसे वे अब स्मॉल पॉक्स और अन्य बीमारियों का टीका लगाते हैं। आत्मा, जीवन प्राण और पदार्थ एक दूसरे से स्वतंत्र रूप से विद्यमान प्राकृतिक तत्व नहीं है, बल्कि आकाश में चिरंतन गति से उत्पन्न सम्मिश्रण के परिणाम है। अगला प्रश्न है, क्या मैग्नेटिक कंडीशंस का बारिश की वर्षा से कोई लेना देना है, या यह पूरी तरह से अलग अलग तापमान पर वायुमंडलीय प्रवाहों यानी एटमॉस्फेयर करंट्स के कारण अलग अलग आर्द्रता की अन्य प्रवाहों का सामना करके समुच्च गति, दाब और प्रसरण आदि के कारण स्थापित होती है? क्या यह सौर ऊर्जा के कारण है? यदि मैग्नेटिक कंडीशंस कार्यरत है तो वे कैसे काम करती है और उनका परीक्षण कैसे किया जा सकता है? इस पर मास्टर उत्तर देते हैं कि आकाश के छोटे से क्षेत्र में कृत्रिम रूप से और बिना किसी चमत्कार या अलौकिक शक्तियों द्वारा बारिश कराई जा सकती है। हालांकि इसके रहस्य का मैं खुलासा नहीं कर सकता। हम प्रकृति में ऐसी किसी भी घटना के बारे में नहीं जानते हैं जो पूरी तरह से चुंबकत्व या बिजली से संबंधित नहीं न हो। चूंकि जहाँ गति, गर्मी, घर्षण, प्रकाश है, वहाँ चुंबकत्व और विद्युत हमेशा किसी भी कारण के रूप में या प्रभाव के परिणाम के रूप में, या यदि हम अभिव्यक्ति को उसके मूल तक की थाह लेते हैं तो दोनों के रूप में प्रकट होगी। पृथ्वी के प्रवाह, अर्थ करंट्स, स्थलीय चुंबकत्व और वायुमंडलीय विद्युत की सभी घटनाएं इस तथ्य के कारण है कि पृथ्वी एक विद्युतीकृत कंडक्टर है जिसकी क्षमता इसके परिभ्रमण और इसकी वार्षिक कक्षीय गति, हवा के क्रमिक शीतलन और ताप, बादलों का बनना और बारिश, तूफान और हवा के कारण बदलती रहती है। ये सभी परिवर्तन आकाशिक चुंबकत्व के कारण लगातार उत्पन्न होने वाली विद्युत धाराओं के कारण होते हैं, जो बाधित हुए संतुलन को बनाए रखते हैं। सबसे शक्तिशाली विद्युत बैक्टीरिया को संचालित करके, यानी मानवीय ढांचे को एक निश्चित प्रक्रिया द्वारा विद्युतीकृत करके, आप बारिश के बादल में एक छेद बनाकर किसी निश्चित स्थान पर बारिश को रोक सकते हैं। अन्य शक्तिशाली चुंबकीय उपकरणों का उपयोग करके एक उष्णता रोधक क्षेत्र में कृत्रिम रूप से बारिश कराई जा सकती है। इस प्रक्रिया को अधिक स्पष्ट रूप से समझाने में मेरी असमर्थता पर मुझे खेद है। मांसपेशियों का साधारण सा संकुचन भी हमेशा विद्युत और चुंबकीय घटनाओं के साथ होता है, और पृथ्वी के चुंबकत्व मौसम के बदलाव और मनुष्य के बीच गहरा संबंध है, जो कि सबसे अच्छा जीवित बैरोमीटर है। यदि वे इसे ठीक से समझना जान सके, फिर आकाश की स्थिति हमेशा चुंबकीय उपकरणों द्वारा दिखाए गए बदलावों से पता लगाया जा सकता है। हमारा यह प्रमाणित तथ्य है कि यह पृथ्वी का चुंबकत्व ही है जो हवा, तूफान और बारिश पैदा करता है। उल्कापात की धूल के प्रति पृथ्वी का चुंबकीय आकर्षण और तापमान में अचानक परिवर्तन, विशेषतः गर्मी और ठंड के मामले में धूलिकण का प्रत्यक्ष प्रभाव आज तक कोई सुलझा नहीं सका। विज्ञान इस तथ्य को स्वीकारता है कि हमारे ग्लोब पर भूमि और पानी का आपेक्षिक वितरण और अनुपात उस पर उल्कापिंड की धूल के भारी संचय के कारण हो सकता है। हमारे उत्तरीय क्षेत्रों में बर्फ उल्कापिंडीय लोहे और चुंबकीय कणों से भरी हुई है और लोह के भंडार समुद्र और महासागरों के तल पर भी पाए जा रहे हैं। मुझे आश्चर्य है कि विज्ञान अब तक यह कैसे नहीं समझ पाया कि प्रत्येक वायुमंडलीय परिवर्तन और उथल-पुथल दो विशाल द्रव्यमानों यानी पृथ्वी और उल्कापिंड के संयुक्त चुंबकत्व के कारण थी, जिनके बीच हमारा वायुमंडल दबा हुआ है। मैं इस उल्कापिंड धूल को द्रव्यमान कहता हूँ क्योंकि यह वास्तव में ऐसा है। हमारी पृथ्वी की सतह से ऊपर हवा व्याप्त है और अंतरिक्ष चुंबकीय या उल्कापिंडीय धूल से भरा है, जो हमारे सौर मंडल से भी संबंधित नहीं है। विज्ञान ने लकीली यह पता लगाया है कि चूंकि हमारी पृथ्वी अन्य सभी ग्रहों के साथ अंतरिक्ष में भ्रमण करती है, यह अपने दक्षिणी गोलार्ध की तुलना में उत्तरी गोलार्ध में धूली कणों का बड़ा भंडार प्राप्त करती है। विज्ञान यह जानता है कि इसी कारण उत्तरी गोलार्ध में महाद्वीपों की प्रचुर संख्या और बर्फ और नमी की अधिक प्रचुरता है। ऐसे लाखों उल्काएं और यहाँ तक कि उत्तमोत्तम कण भी हर साल और रोज हम तक पहुंचते हैं और हमारे मंदिरों के चाकू इस अलौकिक लोह से बने होते हैं, जो बिना किसी बदलाव के हम तक पहुंचते हैं। पृथ्वी का चुंबकत्व उन्हें एकजुट रखता है। उल्कापिंडीय प्रबल चुंबकीय पदार्थ की कभी न रुकने वाली गिरावट से गैसीय पदार्थ लगातार हमारे वायुमंडल में जुड़ते जा रहे हैं और सूरज का बारिश से कोई लेना देना नहीं है और गर्मी से थोड़ा बहुत है। अगला प्रश्न है, क्या सूर्य का कोरोना एक वायुमंडल है, किसी परिचित गैस का है और यह हमेशा ग्रहणों के दौरान देखी जाने वाली किरण जैसे आकृति क्यों लेता है? इस पर मास्टर उत्तर देते हैं कि आप चाहे इसे क्रोमोस्फियर या एटमॉस्फियर कहे, इसे दोनों में से कोई भी नहीं कहा जा सकता है, क्योंकि यह केवल सूर्य की चुंबकीय और कायम रहने वाला आभामंडल है, जिसे खगोल शास्त्रियों ने ग्रहण के दौरान केवल कुछ क्षणों के लिए देखा है और हमारे चेलों द्वारा जब भी वे चाहे वे देख सकते हैं, अर्थात कुछ उच्चावस्था में, जिसे खगोल शास्त्री कोरोना में लाल ज्वाला कहते हैं, उसका एक प्रतिरूप रेचिंग बैच के क्रिस्टल या किसी अन्य प्रबल चुंबकीय वस्तु में देखा जा सकता है। एक मनुष्य के उच्च ध्यानावस्था में जब उसमें अंतर्निहित संपूर्ण इलेक्ट्रिसिटी मस्तिष्क में केंद्रित होती है, तब ऐसी स्थिति में उसका सिर विशेषतः अंधेरे में बिल्कुल सूर्य की तरह दिखेगा। पहला चित्रकार जिसने अपने देवताओं और संतों के माथे के चारों ओर जो तेज पुंज चित्रित किए, वह काल्पनिक न होते हुए उसने मंदिर के गर्भगृह के चित्र और जहां ऐसी घटनाएं होती थी, ऐसे दीक्षा परंपराओं के चेम्बर्स पर आधारित चित्र थे। सिर के या आभा के विकिरण वाले भाग के जितना करीब, उतना ही प्रखर और अधिक दैदीप्यमान वह उत्सर्जन। इसलिए इनर कोरोना या सूर्य के चारों ओर अनियमित लाल ज्वालाएं हैं। चूंकि यह हमेशा एक जैसी मात्रा में नहीं रहती, इसलिए यह चुंबकीय पदार्थ और उसकी ऊर्जा के नियमित उतार चढ़ाव को दर्शाता है, जिस पर सूर्य पर के धब्बों की के विविधता और संख्या भी निर्भर करती है। चुंबकीय निष्क्रियता के काल के दौरान धब्बे गायब हो जाते हैं या यूं कहे कि अदृश्य रहते हैं। उत्सर्जन जितना आगे बढ़ेगा, उतने ही अधिक उसकी तीव्रता कम होती जाती है, जब तक कि वह धीरे धीरे कम नहीं हो जाती। इसलिए बाहरी कोरोना का किरण रूपी आकार पूर्णतः बाद वाली घटना के कारण होता है, जिसका तेज पदार्थ के चुंबकीयत्व और विद्युत शक्ति से आता है, न कि अत्यधिक उष्ण कणों से, जैसा कि खगोल शास्त्रज्ञों द्वारा दावा किया गया है। जिस सूर्य को हम देखते हैं, वह हमारे छोटे से विश्व का मुख्य ग्रह नहीं है। बल्कि केवल उसका आवरण या प्रतिबिंब है। विज्ञान को उस ग्रह की जांच परख करने में जबरदस्त कठिनाइयां हैं, जो सौभाग्य से हमारे लिए नहीं है। सबसे महत्वपूर्ण यह है कि हमारे वायुमंडल की निरंतर अस्थिरता, वह जो कुछ भी देखते हैं उन्हें उसे सही रूप से आकलन करने से रोकते हैं। यह बाधा प्राचीन चार्डी और मिस्र के खगोल शास्त्रियों के रास्ते में कभी नहीं थी। न ही यह हमारे लिए कोई बाधा है, क्योंकि हमारे पास ऐसी अस्थिरता को रोकने या उनका प्रतिकार करने के साधन है, क्योंकि हम सभी आकाशिक स्थितियों से परिचित हैं। आपके सर्वश्रेष्ठ तज्ञों के परस्पर विरोधी अनुमान होते हैं। उदाहरण के तौर पर सूर्य लौह वाष्प से व्याप्त है। यह तथ्य जिसे स्पेक्ट्रोस्कोप द्वारा प्रदर्शित किया गया था, जिसमें दिखाया गया था कि कोरोना की रोशनी काफी हद तक स्पेक्ट्रम के हरे हिस्से की लाइन से बनी थी, जो कि लगभग लौह रेखा से मेल खाती थी। फिर भी प्रोफेसर यंग और लॉकिर ने इसे इस बहाने खारिज कर दिया कि अगर कोरोना धूल के बादल जैसे सूक्ष्म कणों से बना होता है, तो ये कण सूर्य की सतह पर गिरेंगे। धूमकेतु इस बाष्प से बिना किसी प्रत्यक्ष प्रभाव के गुजरेगा। प्रोफेसर यंग के स्पेक्ट्रोस्फीयर ने यह दिखाया कि कोरोनल लाइन लौह रेखा के समान नहीं थी। मास्टर कहते हैं कि जिसे वे पार्टिकल्स कहते हैं, वे सूर्य की सतह पर गिरते हैं। यह स्वतः स्पष्ट है। गुरुत्वाकर्षण के साथ साथ ऐसी शक्तियां हैं जिनके बारे में वे कुछ भी नहीं जानते हैं, यानी शास्त्रज्ञ कुछ भी नहीं जानते हैं। सॉरी। इसके अलावा सच कहे तो गुरुत्वाकर्षण जैसे कुछ है ही नहीं, केवल आकर्षण और विकर्षण है। धूमकेतु उक्त मार्ग से कैसे प्रभावित हो सकते हैं, जब उनका वहां से गुजरना केवल एक ऑप्टिकल इल्यूजन है। वे उस फोर्स द्वारा तुरंत नष्ट किए बिना आकर्षण के क्षेत्र के भीतर से नहीं गुजर सकते। पृथ्वी पर कुछ भी नहीं है जिसकी तुलना इसके साथ की जा सके। जैसा कि धूमकेतु प्रतिबिंब से गुजरते हैं, इसमें कोई आश्चर्य नहीं है कि उक्त वाष्प का इन प्रकाश पिंडों पर कोई दृश्य प्रभाव नहीं पड़ता है। जिसे आप सूर्य कहते हैं, वह हमारे सौर मंडल के विशाल भांडार गृह का प्रतिबिंब मात्र है, जिसमें इसकी सभी शक्तियां उत्पन्न होती है और संरक्षित होती है। सूर्य हमारे छोटे से विश्व का हृदय और मस्तिष्क है। हम इसके चमकीले धब्बों को उन लाखों छोटे अत्यधिक चमकीले पिंड जिनसे धब्बों से दूर सूर्य की सतह बनी है, उसकी तुलना हम उस तेजस्वी ग्रह के रक्त कोशिकाओं से कर सकते हैं। हालांकि उनमें से कुछ का विज्ञान द्वारा सही अनुमान लगाया गया है कि वे यूरोप जितने बड़े हैं। वह रक्त कोशिकाएं छठी और सातवीं अवस्था में विद्युत एवं चुंबकीय पदार्थ है। उनकी सबसे बड़ी गलतफहमियां गुरुत्वाकर्षण के नियम पर उनकी सीमित धारणा में पाई जाती है। पदार्थ गुरुत्वहीन हो सकता है, यानी उसका अंदाजा नहीं लगाया जा सकता है। इससे उनका इनकार है। उनका फोर्स उसकी उच्चतम अवस्थाओं में पदार्थ के अलावा कुछ भी नहीं है, और यूनिवर्सल प्रोटियस और चुंबकत्व और विद्युत का सृष्टि के कार्यभार में, उसके कार्य और महत्व में उसकी अज्ञानता है, यानी विज्ञान की अज्ञानता है। हम जानते हैं कि अदृश्य सूर्य उस चीज से बना है जिसका न तो कोई नाम है, न ही उसकी तुलना आपके विज्ञान द्वारा पृथ्वी पर ज्ञात किसी चीज से की जा सकती है। और इसके प्रतिबिंब में गैसेस, खनिज पदार्थ या अग्नि जैसी कोई भी चीज नहीं पाई जाती है। सूर्य न तो ठोस है, न तरल, न ही गैसीय ग्लोब है, बल्कि विद्युत चुंबकीय शक्तियों की एक विशाल शक्तियों का एक विशाल गोला है, सार्वभौमिक जीवन और गति का भंडार गृह है, जिसमें से सभी दिशाओं में महायुग के अंत तक सबसे छोटे परमाणुओं से लेकर सर्वश्रेष्ठ प्रतिभाशाली तक उसी द्रव्य से पोषित करती है। अगला प्रश्न है, क्या तारों द्वारा उत्सर्जित प्रकाश की फोटोमेट्रिक वैल्यू उनके मैग्नीट्यूड के लिए उचित गाइड है? और क्या यह सच है कि खगोल विज्ञान किसी थियोरी के बिना यह मानता है कि प्रति वर्ग मील सूर्य की सतह उतना ही प्रकाश उत्सर्जित करता है जितना किसी भी पिंड से उत्सर्जित किया जा सकता है? इस पर मास्टर उत्तर देते हैं कि तारे हमसे बहुत दूर है, सूर्य से कम 5 लाख गुना दूर, और कुछ तो उससे भी कई गुना अधिक दूर है। उल्का पिंड का प्रचंड संचय और वातावरण के अस्थिरता हमेशा उनके आड़े आते हैं। पृथ्वी पर न तो उस प्रकाश की तीव्रता की सही मात्रा की जा सकती है और न ही उन्होंने अब तक किसी में यह निश्चित किया है कि कौन से तारे परावर्तित होकर चमकते हैं और कौन से अपने प्रकाश से चमकते हैं। इसलिए परिमाण और दूरी की गणना यानी मैग्नीट्यूड और डिस्टेंस के लिए कोई भरोसेमंद आधार नहीं हो सकता है। अब तक सौर मंडल के बाहर किसी भी ग्रह को उनके फोटोमीटर्स द्वारा नहीं खोजा गया है, जबकि हम अपनी दिव्य दृष्टि से उनमें से कईयों को जानते हैं। वास्तव में पूर्ण तरह से परिपक्व सूर्य तारा में हमारे अपने सौर मंडल की तरह अनेकों साथी ग्रह होते हैं। थैंक यू, नमस्ते।
Thank you, Meenakshi ji, for this translation.
Thank you, both of you. It was really a complex letter. So today, Shinde ji, I noticed he was there. Is he still there? Yes, sir, he's there. Can you shed some light, sir? There are so many complex components to this letter. So any light you can share on any part of it would be nice.
No, VIBHA ji has explained very nicely and scientifically. Actually, she has explained how it is connected to our action potential impulses that occur in the nerves. Actually, the question, if we ask, what is the hotter than the sun? And the reply is, it is solar corona. Solar corona is hotter than the sun. And the corona itself is, we cannot define it. It is a flame. Actually, it is a flame. And therefore, scientists are unable to analyze it. And as Master said, it is beyond our imagination. And whatever we may be applying the formula, it is definitely a corona that protects us in many ways. I don't know how it protects, but it is, we say it is reflection again. As VIBHA ji said, sun himself is the reflection of the solar power beyond the sun. And that is how we remember this is all energy. And one more question, VIBHA ji, we can discuss.
Yes.
It is said, masters have said that you said force and what you said? Force and matter.
Yes.
Force and matter. You said something. Force and matter are not one.
No, force cannot be considered apart from matter. They are one. They are the polarities, in fact.
No, that is not the master's letter. Or who said this? Force and matter. No,
it is
matter
the
cannot control the matter, something. No. Or
no, sir.
Force is not under the control of matter, something you told.
No, it is written in the letter.
What is that? What is that? Do you find that one?
Force and matter are separate, as it is said, but actually it is not so. What we want to do.
No, it's not so what you said. That is what I want to know.
Okay.
Force and matter.
Are not are separate. Scientists have found that force and matter are separate, but master says it is not separate.
Oh, master
So
said
that
it
is
is not separate, eh?
Yes, it is the fallacy of science that they have created this term called force and they keep it apart from matter. They consider it apart from matter. This is the fallacy of science. So what it means consequently or conversely, it will mean that they are one. Force and matter are polarities of one and the same thing.
Why
And
I am asking, why I am putting this for discussion? Because in one of the sentences, statements of J. Krishnamurti, he says that emotions cannot be controlled. Emotions are beyond. And if you control the emotions, then you can control the mind. So the control of emotion is difficult. And I think this is the force. Emotion is the force. And matter is energy, as we say. So the difference between force and matter is that what I have learned. Force has got no direction, but matter has got definite direction. So that is the difference. Thought is matter, but emotions are not matter. They are forces. This is what I understood because I am connecting, relating this to the what Mahatma letters have said in this. I think so. I may be also wrong, but you think on it.
So this is what I have read in the letter. It is directly from this same letter only that Mahatma Ji is saying science is not correct in assuming force to be apart from matter. So that gives conversely that force and matter are one and the same. They are two polarities. The sun is a ball of electromagnetic force, which is matter in its 6th and 7th state. So this is what I have understood from this letter. Now, if we relate to what you are saying, perhaps we need to understand it and meditate over it some more.
Yeah, correct.
I have a question, Vibhaji. I'm a little confused about some terms.
Yes.
For example, you have used the word the Akashic substance and also called it primordial matter. And that is also, you also call it the fifth plane stuff. Am I
Yes.
right in saying all these things?
Yes.
Now, it's all extremely complicated. I mean, it's confusing me extremely because Mula Prakriti, as we know, was the substance which was the plane, what was in the plane of the solar system before the first Quilon was created. Now, how can that be also of the fifth plane? And then where does Akasha come in all this? So, all this is confusing me now.
Yes. It is confusing because the higher three planes, they are Arup, and about that nothing can be said, nothing is known even by the highest planetary. Okay, the higher three is what corresponds to Atma, Buddhi, Manas. So objective manifestation will begin only from that third plane down, like counting from the higher one. So from that Atma, Buddhi, Manas, when you come to the third, only from that third plane downwards, objective manifestation begins. This I'm talking about the macroscopic or the cosmos. Okay, that third one is the third one from the top. It is the plane of Mahat or the divine thought or the plane of Akash. That is why it is said that it is from Akash that every objective manifestation is happening. It is the motion of Akash which brings all the differentiation into manifestation. So, sorry, what was your question?
So now, how does Mula Prakriti come in Akash?
Now, Mool Prakriti doesn't come in Akash. Mool Prakriti is the wheel over Parabrahma from which periodically the universes manifest and dissolve into the same.
So it's not primordial. Akasha is not primordial. You had used that word primordial while using Akasha. That's why
Akash is the primordial substance because beyond that, nothing is known, nothing is explained. Even the highest planetaries have no knowledge about those higher three planes. Right? See, Theosophy speaks of 7 elements. Fifth element is Akash. The other two, they are not described or explained, though they are considered as Anupadak Tattva and Adi Tattva, right? Okay, so Akash is the primordial matter. These are only terminology just to confuse us.
Vimalji,
Yes, sir.
Akash, not only the ether, there are many layers of ether also, which we don't know. Well, even in Theosophy, that is not explained. Now, there are many layers of ether. Maybe that Akash, what masters want to suggest. Akash is the ether, what we call space.
Yes, Shindeji is right in this. See, Akash pervades all of space. There are 7 differentiations of Akash. And the lowest differentiation is this astral light, which corresponds to our earth, envelops the earth. Okay, so even though there are differentiations of Akash, but ultimately in their source, they are that primordial substance.
Okay, I think now it makes more sense. So they are, although they're termed the same thing, but they are all differentiation of that one thing. That's what. Okay. Thank
Perhaps
you.
Master says you must make your own deductions and contemplate on that.
No, this type of letter, actually, when science discovers something, we'll be coming back to reading, oh, now it's corresponding. Now it's making sense. So this type of thing, there's so many things in this letter which science is not agreeing with. So it's very difficult to speak anything about it.
Right.
So this is what difference between occultism and mysticism. Occultism is going, relating everything step by step, step by step, step by step. And in mysticism, there are no step, direct. Yeah. So that is the difference between, we all are occultists. We are going step by step and trying to connect the reality. That is
like,
our
for
method.
example, I have like one problem with when you say that, see, in this letter, Vibhaji, there is no mention that helium and hydrogen, it does say that the sun does not have any solid, liquid, gaseous matter. It says that. You also mentioned that it is actually the 6th and 7th plane, the Adi and Anupadak plane, and it's mentioned here that it's a ball of electromagnetic forces. But when you talk about I am having a doubt here that 6th and 7th plane, they are referring to 6th and 7th plane of matter, physical matter, which means the superetheric and etheric or subatomic, what is that 6th and 7th in that physical matter, in which case the fusion concept of science exists, holds true, because what science is saying is that the nucleus of the hydrogen, 2 hydrogen atoms are fusing together to form the helium atom, which is a stable inert gas with 2 electrons in the outer, in its this thing. So helium is a stable gas, hydrogen is a unstable gas, and this happens in the sun all the time, nuclear fusion of hydrogen atoms. But you're saying that the 6th and 7th plane has nothing to do with the physical 6th and 7th plane. You're talking about the 6th and 7th plane with Adi and Anupadak 7th plane. So I have a doubt whether you're right or wrong. That's all I'm saying. I'm not sure.
See, everything that is happening on the higher planes, it is being reflected on the physical plane or the lower planes. Okay, so even though it is matter in its 6th and 7th state, it still has a physical manifestation on our physical plane.
Okay.
Right?
So it could be helium and hydrogen then.
Sorry.
Because they are subatomic. The action of nuclear fusion is a subatomic occurrence, right?
That is not explained in the letter. What are the words of the Mahatma? Words of the Mahatma are that how can you think that only the physical matter can feed the fires of the sun? These are his words. So physical matter alone is not sufficient to bring about that phenomena or whatever nomina we are observing.
But to be honest, we really don't understand how the tiny 2 atoms can create that type of energy.
They cannot.
We cannot. So, in a way, what I'm trying to say here is it's quite possible that what science is saying because at that time, science did not have this language which we have today. Nuclear fusion and fission is a much later language. So that's what I'm saying. I don't know whether you can get what I'm saying.
Let us connect to our life. That is enough for us. We get that energy from the sun and we can invoke that energy.
Yes. Yes. Thank you so much for this lively discussion.
One thing, may I ask in the next session?
You can ask Sheetalji, yes.
Yes, about corona of higher beings.
Okay.
Actually, it is said in the book, in the outer court, that the flames are coming from the legs, means lower part of the legs from of the guru. Do you get me?
Sorry, I did not understand your question.
The book, in the outer court, by Anne Besant, she says that when we enter the seventh layer and we enter the inner Garbhagruha, there the God or Master or Guru is standing there, and flames are coming from his legs.
Okay.
So that corona, is that the corona or something else?
Okay, sir, would you like to say something, Shinde sir?
Said to be around the head of the higher beings also, na?
Okay, see, I'll share my understanding.
On the 6th and 7th plane, who are there? In initiation, if you see, then 9th and 10th initiation people are there at that Adi plane or that plane. And they are himself radiating. Either the radiation may come from the feet or anywhere. From everywhere they are radiating. They are like star.
Okay.
They are stars.
Yeah, they are stars.
True.
Yes.
What we say, Saptarishi, they are beings only. They are stars. In fact, remember one thing. The will force comes from the 7th principle, the highest principle. Okay. Will force is same as one life. Will force is same as magnetism. So remember, whenever speaking of magnetism, it is the 7th principle. This is my understanding of theosophic studies or whatever is given in theosophic literature. Perhaps someone may understand it differently. That's okay. Right? Thank you,
right,
Sheetalji.
Vibhaji, you are right. Will is the power, that one.
Yes.
Atma
Will force.
power. Atma Shakti.
Right. So thank you, all of you. This letter will have even many, many more questions. I thought I will finish it in 4 parts. Today I've taken 3rd part, but I don't think I can complete it next time. It will continue for many more sessions, I think. There are 29
you
questions.
explain it very deeply. Therefore, you kindle our inquiry, actually.
Thank you, sir. So,
going through your lecture is a treat to us, really.
thank you, Sheetalji. Thank you, Sheetalji. If it inspires somebody to study, then it is very good that my mission is accomplished. Vimalji, we can close now.
Yes. So thank you so much, Vibhaji. It was beautiful, the session. So let's all join together in the closing prayer. Asatoma Sadgamaya, Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya, Mrityorma Anutangamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you, everyone.